So very excited to be here. This is my first time in Soccerex. It's also my first time in Manchester, so definitely want to see the city as well. Quick introduction about myself. I've been in big data projects for about 20 years. I started my career in corporate banking, and then later focused on financial, on the stock market, like big data challenges around that. But for the most recent part, what's been keeping me up at night is how do we take unstructured data signals to solve the problem of data personalization for audiences like your fans, your consumers, etc. So we are in an age of digital. We are also in an age of digital distraction. Like in the 1 second this slide has been up, this is what's been passed around both from Instagram, from a social standpoint, from an email standpoint, from a video viewing standpoint. There's so much activity going on. Personally, I'm registered on 5 social networks. I'm active on 3. I've got 2 email addresses, and that's kind of the median profile of people on social and in digital today. So with so much digital distraction happening, what's going to make your brand stand out? Why is your team going to get the attention of a football fan? So just think about this as the noisy bar down the street, and you want the best digital pickup line to get engagement. What's that pickup line going to be? And it comes down to 2 things. The first thing is relevance. How do you generate content that's relevant for your audience? The second thing is timeliness. How do you know the right time to push that content to get the attention of the fan as well? So the modern CMO and the modern digital strategists really care about taking that relevant, timely content to do 2 things. They want to drive positive fan experiences, and they're going to do that by creating frictionless experiences. They also want to be anticipatory towards the modern fan, and by doing that, they're creating a very positive fan experience, which is driving loyalty up. And in order to do that goal of being frictionless and anticipatory, you really need to be in sync with the behaviors and preferences of the fan. You need to know exactly what do they care about, what are they about. And without that, you're really shooting in the dark. The problem and the obstacle that's up today is that traditional ways of getting consumer insights are based on pixel tracking. They're based on panel-based tracking, which is all about clicks. It's not about people. If you truly want to understand the fans behind your team, you have to put a face on your first-party data. What does it mean, put a face on your first-party data? Think of the millions of fan records you have in your CRM systems, in your marketing automation systems. Think of all the data you collect from ticketing, that you collect from merchandising, from retail, that you collect from the events and campaigns that you run, from the concessions shown on the concession stands. All that information is rich detail that you can assimilate and you already have, but rather than keeping it as a shallow, faceless record in your data assets, you need to know more about who people really are. So our philosophy on the aspect of truly understanding the fan is you don't want to listen to fans just when they talk about you as a team. You want to listen to them all the time. It's not just when they retweet Manchester City that Manchester City needs to know about them. You need to know about it when they drink Starbucks coffee down the road as well. You want to help your sponsors build those connections. Facebook was here 2 sessions ago, really great session. And the key takeaway that I took about was understanding your audience. When you're trying to connect to a global audience in Malaysia, how do you connect to that global audience? If you try to do a one-size-fits-all spray and pray method, you will not reach out to the right people in Malaysia, in EMEA, in South Africa. You need to have that connection. So at Zoom, what we target is getting this profile on fans and consumers and telling it everything about who they are, what they care about, where are they. And we offer a full data solution that's built on two perspectives. The left side, what we call our audience database, is an index of fan profiles that touches into demographic data. This covers things like gender, ethnicity, languages spoken. We get into spatial or location-based data. We get into psychographic information. These are beliefs, values, opinions, affiliations to teams, affiliations to entertainers. And this is a slowly changing data set that gets refreshed on a cadence of about every 3 months. We have about 250 million social identities indexed in our audience data set, which grows about 5 million every week. So why is this important? Earlier we talked about relevance and timeliness. This drives the relevance part. And what's great about it is you can connect all these different data points to construct very rich profiles of who your audiences are and build these bio profiles and start engaging and targeting them. Coming to the right side, this is more about the timeliness part that we talked about. You want to know the right time to nurture your fans. You want to know when purchase intent is highest. You want to know when they complain about security in the stadium. You want to know when they have a life-changing moment, which will be the right time to reach out to them. So this is all about real time, how you can connect with people, when you can connect with people. And this is push notifications that we can send to systems with our capability. So what's powerful about our data philosophy is taking the left side of the picture and taking the right side of the picture and giving you this full picture on who your fans really are. So this obviously is a very challenging task. And the way we tackle this problem to isolate 250 million social identities has been, over a 3-year period, we have dissected over 100 billion social signals. By these social signals, I mean activities that people talk about, locations that they have checked in from, talks about relationships, the social graph of how people are connected. Also, what do they talk about in that connection as well? Who do people follow? Who follows both Arsenal and the LA Clippers? All that is data that we index and isolate in our data solution. And across all these social identities, we have indexed them across 190 data dimensions. And all these can be combined with very complex Boolean logic to isolate exactly who are you trying to reach. So I wanted to share a couple of case studies with you. The first case study is from the NBA. We work with a lot of NBA teams. This specific team has a goal of maximizing the relationships they have with their most valuable fans. Who are the most valuable fans? The season ticket holders, the fans who spend the most. And they have isolated that data asset, but they want to build more personalized experiences towards this community. And they do that by looking up who they are on social, which we have a service that provides that. And they got a 38% match rate on their MVP fan based on social. The next step that they do for that community is enriching that in their Microsoft Dynamics system with 11 data dimensions that they care about across all the 190 points that we collect, and then assimilate those data points back into Microsoft Dynamics. Now, from an outbound marketing perspective, they can segment their audiences the right way. They can discover the lookalike audiences in order to attract and grow the community beyond the group that they have right now. They can attract more of the same type of MVP fans as well. And they also find better ways of engaging with that community. They have the right data points in order to push the right messages in a very programmatic way to connect the right message to the right people. So the second case study I have for you is with Wasserman. So for those of you who are not familiar with Wasserman, it's a sports marketing agency with a unique focus on targeting athletes, targeting properties, targeting sponsors as well. So with that trifecta, they're trying to build the right connections and relationships between those three entities. And we are their social media partner for providing all data around those three entities for Wasserman. They use us for a variety of different use cases. This is one specific example that they tapped into us for a global beer company that is looking to expand into third world markets. So third world markets in this specific case was Eastern and Western Africa. And the beer company was looking to identify a retired EPL football star who could be the face of the brand in these markets. How do you do that? How do you pick the right person? So the solution that was done was Wasserman tapped into Zoom's hyperlocal data. So we were able to map 37,000 football fans in these very specific regional markets. Think about the global appeal on how you can expand football universally, but getting down to very granular data in Africa, in Southeast Asia, every other country. So we have the data down to that grain, and they were able to map these profiles, segment it by affinity towards these EPL stars. They were also able to segment it by characteristics of the audience in terms of the likelihood that they would drink beer, the likelihood they'll be socially active. Using that, Wasserman ran a multivariate analysis, and they stack ranked the appeal of 12 football stars, and they used that as a way to find the ideal face of the campaign that will create the most resonance when they go into these new markets. So just want to share a testimonial from Shelley at Wasserman. We work with Shelley on a variety of different projects. Shelley's background is in consumer insights for PepsiCo. She was responsible for building their data warehouse across the entire North American consumer segment. And she's now doing the same thing for sports at Wasserman. And what she taps into every single day is the next level deep insight that Zoom provides her, which is then integrated into a variety of different sources from broadcast media and other sources as well. But from social media, we support Shelley in her goal to provide that relevance of connecting brands to properties to athlete to talents as well. So I'd like to open it up for questions for either myself or Quinton. Anyone? Yes, please.
You got a mic.
Hi, my name is Yogesh Joshi from Matchworld. You have some very relevant data, very interesting data that clubs, franchises can pick up. However, just wanted to know what would the source of the data be, and what are the limitations you have in terms of, if it's things like Facebook or Twitter.
Absolutely.
Do you have the rights to pick up that? Who owns that data, etc.? Just elaborate.
Absolutely. Yes. Great question. So two parts of the question. The first part, what data are we sourcing? It is social information. So we pull data from Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Google+. I just learned that Google+ is very popular in Australia. So in case any of you are marketing in Australia, something they should know about. We connect information across all those sources to build the insights that we have. We are actually a data agnostic platform, so if there's any custom data that you would like to pull through our systems, we can do that as well. Everything we do is via APIs. Both Facebook and Twitter are paying customers of Zoom as well, so they use our platform too. We don't scrape anything. We don't pull any private data into our system. Everything is public information, which leads to the second question you were asking about who owns the data. So that's a very critical part, and that's part of the system and processes you need to establish when integrating this information into your first-party data. You need to set up processes by which you can request and acquire consent, And so let's assume that you have a data asset of about 10 million fans in a team that you have. Push out a message requesting consent. That can be hosted by what we call a Zoom microsite, which is a form-based system by which you can have people authenticate with messaging on why you'd want to authenticate, what's the value proposition that the fan would get by agreeing to be researched on social media for the benefit of creating more personalized experiences. And when you have that consent, this process obviously would be done for that segment. So we work with a CPG brand, which is global across over 100 different countries. I'm not allowed to name it, but they do exactly that in the UK market, where they request for consent, and only for the people who have provided that consent can they integrate this data solution in there. So it's part of the whole solution that needs to be constructed. Does that answer your question?
Thomas, you might want to mention like our proprietary, methods.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. So Quinton just brought up a good point here. So just to augment the first part of the question about the data sets that we have, so we have a patented enrichment pipeline, and that's my specialty. I have a background in linguistics, and my focus area is how you can assimilate structured and unstructured data solutions together to create more value. By itself, unstructured data can only take you so far, but we index about 250,000 different brands, celebrities, entertainment shows globally, and we use that to construct this very rich association profile. So it's not just about getting the data from the platforms. The complexity also comes in how we enrich that data through our platform. Any more questions? Yes.
Hi. Yeah, it's Steve Milner from Avery Dennison. The information that you're gathering and disseminating is ultimately leading up to help a brand or a club help to target a specific consumer.
Yes.
In a more enriched way. That's leading up to it. So let's say if I'm a marketing company or a marketing person from a club and I initiate a campaign based on the data that you supplied,
yes.
Do you then supply the data to monitor the effectiveness of that campaign afterwards to justify the information that you're bringing to the table is correct?
Absolutely. So we are a fully baked platform that supports the monitoring aspect as well. Again, from social channels. So we have a focus on social. So we can track the impact and the resonance of that campaign on social and use it to calculate an ROI, for example, if that's your question. So to give you an example on that, we recently worked with a publication brand, which is 140 years old. They are struggling to reach the young audience of today, and they define their buyer profile as the globally curious. Their buyer profile is people who care about current world issues like water scarcity, women's rights, and all those kind of new age topics. Not new age topics, more topics that the people who care about current affairs and world international issues will research. So they use Zoom to define that buyer profile. They use that to study what is the behaviors of that buyer community, for example, on a weekday versus a weekend in San Francisco. If they want to set up a physical activation in San Francisco to target the globally curious, where would they put it? Is it going to be on Fisherman's Wharf? Because then you might just get a lot of tourists. You may not get the globally curious audience. So they were able to baseline it and compare it and isolate that. But then the key part would be the measurement aspect of tracking. When you actually set up that activation, how much amplification is that campaign getting to reflect the investment that you're put into? So absolutely, yes, we do that. Questions? Yes.
Archie from InCrowd. What's the most useful first-party data set for clubs or leagues to collect if they want to match it to the data sets that you can aggregate?
Absolutely. So there are multiple of them. So one is obviously the ticketing data. There is also merchandising data. There is concession data. There are also event and campaign information you might have collected. One problem that we have seen is that when you get into a lot of teams wouldn't have consolidated that information into a single point. They might have it siloed in different systems. In terms of a path of moving, we feel that the immediate value would be based on things like ticketing data, like the NBA team we talked about, starting with that from CRM and matching it, enriching, potentially even bringing it into your fan warehouses that you might have for driving insights as well.
But is it email address, name, postcode, which actual?
Oh, I
bits
see,
of
the
data?
attributes, yeah. So we have, as part of an API that we offer, it's called a social matching API. What that does is we take first-party data like first name, last name, email address, physical address, including postcode. We don't save any of that information, but we use it as a way to drive what we call attributional or fuzzy matching. So we take those characteristics and match it up against our index of profiles, and we see that these people are the most likely to be the same person that you have in your CRM system. And it is a very interesting approach in that you can tap into a lot of aspects in the social graph. So for example, if you follow Man City, for example, and your name is John Smith, now there are going to be tons of John Smiths on social media. How do you know it's the right John Smith? So you can tap into aspects of where does John Smith tweet from. Does he tweet from the Etihad complex because he was there at a game at some point? You can also see, does he follow Man City on Instagram or Twitter? And based on the social graph as well, you're basically peeling out an onion and figuring out across multiple data dimensions, this is the most likely match of the people that you have.
And so which data sets are the most useful then for that? So if you're trying to speed that match up and make it most relevant, which are the most useful data
All
sets?
of them. So the way we work is the more data dimensions you provide, the more confident we can provide a match. We are never going to give you a match based on name alone because that's never good enough. So we care about name, we care about geography, we care about brand affinity and associations, maybe to stars on the team or to the team itself. We care about maybe relationships to sponsors, maybe they ran campaigns against, and that's how the data point came in. So the more information you have collected in your first-party data, the more that you can pass to Zoom, we can provide you a higher confidence of a match.
Thanks.
Okay, so just a quick last thing. We are at booth 124, just outside on the right, on the left when you step out. If you want to swing by, we can walk you through a report of who's in your audience live, and we can give you that report as well. So thank you very much, and thanks for coming today.